Welcome everybody. Welcome for this match of the group phase. This is the Inter-University Law Debate Tournament, which is starting for both universities. These two universities already participated last year, but we are very happy to see some familiar names indeed among the coach, and as well new students representing these two universities. My name is Aurélien Orange, and my colleague Miss Urbanova will be hosting this match between the University of Western Ontario, or Western University, and Sofia University. Miss Urbanova, you would like to add some welcoming word?
Welcome everyone, and thank you to my colleague, and also welcome again to the both participating universities. Best of luck to the students representing their institutions this year. Looking forward to your debate. Just to remind you and also to inform the audience, I'll be your host for the match. When you will have 30 seconds left of your speaking time, you'll see a yellow card for a short moment. And when your speaking time is up, you will see me keep a red card up in the visual up until the moment you stop speaking. Please feel free to conclude your sentence, but please don't start a new one. Again, best of luck to you.
Thank you very much. So now it is time to give you the floor, because you are those who will be speaking most of the time during this session. So dear students, could you introduce yourself? I would like to start with Mr. Walsh, Jack Walsh. So you have the floor.
Hello everybody, my name's Jack Walsh and I'm a second-year student at Western University. And I'm very interested in international law, and I hope to pursue a career in this area.
Thank you very much, welcome. We have as well Mr. On the side of Sofia University, Mr. Martin Kyushukov.
Hello everyone, my name is Martin Kyushukov. I'm from Sofia University and I'm currently third year international relations. I'm very thankful for this opportunity and I'm seeking to refine my skills debating. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have as well on the side of the University of Western Ontario, Miss Rebecca Rodriguez.
Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca. Nice to meet everyone. I'm a first-year student at Western University studying law, and I'm very excited to hear from everyone today.
Thank you very much. Now, moving back to Bulgaria, at Sofia University we have as well Miss Victoria Malinova.
Hello everyone, my name is Victoria Malinova. I'm third year law at the Sofia University, and I'm so excited about this competition and about the matter of international law.
Thank you very much. And we have as well the third member of the University of Western Ontario, Mr. Spencer Reiser.
Hi everyone, I'm very excited to be here today. Thank you for having me. I'm a second-year student at Western, and I'm very excited to dive into all the research on the current international law issues in this competition.
Thank you. So we have as well Mr. as well on the side of Sofia University, Mr. Svetlin Ivanchenko.
Hello everyone, my name is Svetlin Ivanchenko. I'm also a third-year student of law at Sofia University, and it's my pleasure being a part of the Hague Debate Tournament. Thank you.
Thank you. So both teams have been coached actually, so one by Professor Dr. Oosteveld, who is a coach of the University of Western Ontario. I don't think she's in the room at this moment, but we have as well one of the two coaches on the side of Sofia University who is present, Miss Sofia Donskaya, who participated last year as a participant herself. Can you hear us, Miss Donskaya?
Absolutely, Mr. Orange. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I'm very thankful to see you this year again. To be honest, I was very excited to let other participants from our university to compete this year, and hopefully they will show and continue, the tradition for our university participating.
Thank you very much. I want to mention as well the name of the second coach, who is Maria Merzanova, who participated last year as well with you as a team member for the competition, the edition 2022. I think finally that we have one of the judge who is in the room currently, Professor Esteban Munoz.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon.
Yes, could you introduce?
It's my pleasure to serve as a judge in this debate. It is a really important topic we're about to discuss today, and I'm really waiting for hear your arguments about it.
Thank you. Could you introduce a little bit yourself as well? Yes, could you introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, my name is Esteban Munoz. I'm representing, I was working in the University of Antioquia from Colombia, and it's my role right now, from the University of Antioquia from Colombia, even though I'm right now in Barcelona, working from Spain as well. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So indeed, one of the three judges, Professor Munoz, and as well you will have two other judges. So now we'll move to simply the debate itself. You received the topic 7 days ago, dear students. This topic was states should enact legislation that would require companies that are their largest polluters to contribute to a global fund for remedying the effects of climate change. So this topic has been received 7 days ago in your email box, and you prepared for the match. So I will share my screen in order for you and for as well the audience on YouTube to see the allocation of the position for this match. So either in favor, either against. So normally you should see now what is on my screen. So this is a wheel with two positions for each university. So either in favor, either against. And now I just click on the center, and then you will know which position it is. So for this match, Western University, so the University of Western Ontario, will defend the position against the statement, and then, as a consequence, Sofia University will defend the position in favor of the statement. So it means that Sofia University will defend the position that states should enact legislation that would require companies that are their largest polluters to contribute to a global fund for remedying the effects of climate change. And on the other side, Western University will defend the position that states should not enact legislation that would require companies that are their largest polluters to contribute to a global fund for remedying the effects of climate change. So now my colleague will share the screen for the 5 minutes. So 5 minutes countdown for you to review your notes, and after 5 minutes my colleague will start the match.
Thank you very much. The final preparation time has now concluded. We will then be proceeding with the team in favor of the debate statement. You will now have 4 minutes for your opening statement, whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon to the judges and to our colleagues from the University of Western Ontario, Canada. My name is Svetlana Ivanchenko, and today with my teammates Victoria Malinova and Martin Kichukov, we'll be arguing for the statement the government should enact such legislation that would require from companies who are their largest polluters to contribute to a global fund for remedying the effects of climate change. Climate change is one of the main topics in political agenda. However, discussing an issue does not necessarily mean solving it. To that end, it's of great importance that governments take swift and adequate measures in order to combat climate change and reverse its negative consequences on the environment. In order to prove our statement, we will bring before you the following arguments. Firstly, that large companies should be held responsible for polluting the environment, and here we would point out the polluter pays principle. Secondly, that such legislation would contribute to the protection of fundamental human rights. And last but not least, the legislation we support will boost the transition to green energy. To begin with our first argument, environmental pollution has many dimensions. It may be air pollution, subsoil contamination, or ocean pollution, etc. Evidently, large companies have adverse impact on the environment. On the other hand, though, there are a few huge companies who are leading the fight against climate change. For instance, IKEA, who according to a survey conducted by CNN, invested nearly $2 billion in renewable energy projects. But why is it so important that companies contribute to the battle against climate change by making financial installments in a global fund? Well, the answer is plain, because the bigger the companies and the more it produces, the more it pollutes the environment, either by emitting CO2 in the atmosphere or by just throwing remainings of their activities into the oceans and seas. In other words, large polluters shall be held responsible for their actions, and there is no better way than just setting a part of their profits aside for environmental protection. Turning to our second argument, honourable judges, fundamental human rights are put at great risk due to the pollution caused by large companies. By implementing the aforementioned legislation, we aim at the protection of fundamental human rights, such as the right to live, the right to the highest attainable standard of living, and such in our global instruments like the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, and as a whole on the international law. Even in the Constitution of World Health Organization, the highest attainable standard of health as a fundamental right for every human being has been proclaimed. Additionally, in the case of the Univ versus Turkey, the court found that states must regulate dangerous activities, taking into consideration the level of potential risk to human lives. Hence, a sensible and effective approach to protect human rights is by implementing such legislation that would require the largest companies and thus the biggest polluters to try and cut down their negative footprints in the environment, which in turn will stimulate them to develop new innovations and technologies and thereby reduce their harmful impact on the environment and by extension on every human being. Now let's take focus on our last argument, which concerns the transition to green energy. As stated before, a global fund needs to be created. Its function would be to assemble amounts of money from the largest polluters and allocate them into various initiatives. For example, reconstructing roads and make them greener, as well as make our buildings more sustainable, introducing new methods of heating, cooling our buildings and the rooms therein. In this way, we will commence reshaping the world around us, and at the same time, biggest companies will contribute to that change, a change that would guarantee a brighter future for us and the next generations. Thank you.
Thank you for your submission. University of Western Ontario, you now have 4 minutes for your opening statement in the against position.
Before I begin, can I confirm that I'm visible and audible to everyone in attendance?
Yes, you are.
So good afternoon to our judges and to our colleagues at the University of Sofia. Today, my team and I will be arguing that states should not enact legislation that would require companies that are their largest polluters to contribute to a global fund for remedying the effects of climate change. While there are some aspects of this proposal that are well-intentioned It is ultimately an inefficient, unnecessary, and potentially counterproductive instrument for financing climate change relief. In today's debate, our team will be discussing 4 points in support of this claim. First, I will be discussing how this proposal would be redundant and confusing given the existence of Article 9 of the 2015 Paris Agreement on Climate Change. Second, I will also be arguing that it would allow states to shirk responsibility by shifting the burden of climate finance to private actors. Third, Rebecca will be arguing that countries should have flexibility on how they address climate change. And finally, Spencer will be discussing how a consolidated global fund would serve as a more effective, would not serve as an effective instrument as opposed to smaller funds. At the end of our submission, it will be clear that a global fund contributed by the largest private polluters is not an effective or desirable solution to supporting climate finance goals. To begin, Article 9 of the Paris Agreement already provides the answer for financing climate relief, and all efforts should be directed in strengthening this approach rather than creating an entirely new approach. Article 9 states that parties should take into account the approach that developed country parties should take the lead in mobilizing climate finance from a wide variety of sources, instruments, and channels, noting the significant role of public funds. It also notes that other parties are encouraged to provide or continue to provide such support voluntarily. While well-intentioned in some respects, requiring companies that are the largest polluters to contribute to a global fund risks undermining this vital agreement. Article 9 encourages states to adopt measures that are tailored to their own capabilities and circumstances. This is the product of a lengthy and exhaustive negotiation process and cannot be ignored cavalierly. Requiring polluters to pay into a global fund is an inappropriate top-down and one-size-fits-all approach that contradicts the spirit of Article 9. Climate change is too urgent of an issue and requires too great of amount of global cooperation that we cannot risk fragmenting existing fragile agreements and cooperative efforts as this proposal would risk doing. Second, states, not corporations, are ultimately the key players who must deliver on agreements to take action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. While corporations do need to be part of a solution, emissions are a product of a larger set of economic policies and approaches that incentivize the burning of fossil fuels to fuel economic growth and development. Polluting companies are simply one piece of this puzzle. It is unfair and illogical for states to require private polluters to pay into a global fund without at the same time pursuing alternative incentive structures that allow companies to adopt more sustainable and financially viable business models. A global fund is ultimately a well-intentioned but also an overly simplistic and unrealistic solution to this complex and urgent issue. Thank you for listening, and I'd now like to cede the floor again to my colleagues from the University of Sofia.
Thank you for your submission. Sofia University debate team, you now have 2 minutes for your first rebuttal.
Before I start, I would like to ask, am I visible and audible?
You are.
Okay. So, the protection of the environment is of utmost importance, which is why we consider that states should enact legislation to create a global fund as soon as possible. Our planet is dying. According to a recent report made by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change from October 2018, we've got only 10 years to save our planet. We think that creating a global fund would be a successful measure to stop our environmental crisis for the following arguments. First, companies that are the largest polluters shall bear a significant responsibility for the emissions that affect climate change. Contributing to a global fund is a way to hold them accountable. For that reason, large polluters should pay for the trouble they have caused, and thus they would also be encouraged to modernize their production system. We understand that modern technologies might be expensive, which leads us to our second argument, which is that the money from the global fund could be invested to the companies that are in need to modernize their technologies with more eco-friendly production system. Third, the legislation would also be a necessary measure for the protection of human rights, and more specifically to the right of a healthy, clean, and sustainable environment, which was recognized by the United Nations in 2021. It was recognized as a human right that is important for the enjoyment of human rights. The right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment is also connected to the right to live, because without a healthy environment, there would be no clear water or healthy food, and the world will die. So, thank you.
Thank you very much for your submission. University of Western Ontario, you have 2 minutes for your first rebuttal.
Before I begin, I just want to confirm if I'm audible and visible.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Thank you, Victoria, for your argument. While it may be true that financial resources are needed to address climate change, states must first fulfill their own obligations to climate financing before we expect corporations to do so. Climate change is not the sole blame of corporations. States have facilitated and furthered the effects of climate change in the centuries since the Industrial Revolution, and many states are currently failing to meet their own commitments under Article 9 of the Paris Agreement. Before we can ask corporations to contribute millions, states must first meet their own commitments. I will instead argue that the proposed fund would take away countries' flexibility to address climate change in ways that work for them. If states are to require their biggest polluters to contribute to the proposed fund, the progress of current schemes that financially incentivize polluters to reduce emissions may be stunted, since corporations are unlikely to commit to both these schemes and a global fund. In recent years, states have implemented schemes like carbon taxes and cap-and-trade systems, which encourage corporate polluters to reduce carbon emissions. The implementation of such schemes has allowed states to hold polluters accountable in ways that are cost-effective. Additionally, both of these schemes have been regarded as effective ways to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by international law. Article 17 of the Kyoto Protocol recognizes and regulates emissions trading schemes, while the UN Handbook on Carbon Taxation for Developing Countries serves as a guidebook for states looking to implement carbon taxes. The use of carbon taxes in states around the world has also shown that their implementation does not always stunt economies. For example, Sweden's hefty carbon tax, since the implementation of Sweden's hefty carbon tax, the country's economy has grown by over 100%. While these systems might not work for all states, states deserve the flexibility to test such schemes without them being disrupted by global initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As debate team from Sofia University, you have 2 minutes for your rebuttal.
Firstly, am I audible and visible?
You are.
Thank you. As the second speaker of the proposition, I would like to address the arguments that you have made. Firstly, you said that they need to fulfill their own obligations at first place. So one of these obligations is actually implementing adequate measures to protect all people from harms of the human rights caused by businesses. So where such harms do occur, there are effective remedies. So states have an obligation to protect human rights from harm by businesses. And one example for this is the case of Sheikh Wazir versus WABDA from 1994. So that's when the applicants challenged the constitutionality of plans to build an electrical grid station because they feared that electromagnetic fields would threaten their constitutional right to life. The Supreme Court of Pakistan, with this case, expanded the fundamental right to life and dignity by interpreting these rights to encompass the right to a healthy environment. And again, I must say that human rights consider every state and the global economy. Secondly, with taxating the largest polluters, they actually bear the responsibility, and that way they are accountable for this. One of the main principles is the polluter pays principle, and it is one of the most important principles implemented in the environmental policy of both the European Union and the international community. So in 2021, the District Court of The Hague stated a judgment in the case Mouloudou-Fanzi versus RDS, in which for the first time a multinational corporation is held responsible for its contribution to climate change. RDS is immediately called to reduce the levels of CO2 emissions by the judgment. And again, a wide variety of sources in order to reduce climate change also includes creating a global fund which won't reduce the flexibility of each individual country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now returning back to University of Western Ontario, you now have 2 minutes for a second and last rebuttal.
Before I begin, can I confirm that I'm audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. I want to thank my opponent for their argument. However, I must respectfully disagree. My friends have argued that we should be taxing the largest corporations that are the largest polluters. However, this will result in corporations passing along these costs to the consumers, and thus the human rights argument is self-defeating. I will argue that a global fund contributed to by the largest private polluters is not needed, as these funds already exist for remedying the effects of climate change, and creating a new fund will diminish the abilities of current funds. Currently, there are many funds that already exist to address climate change. To name a few, there's the Green Climate Fund, the Special Climate Change Fund, and the Least Developed Countries Fund. The proposed fund would not make a difference, as the climate finance landscape is already saturated. In fact, saturating this market further with another fund will likely have a negative effect, as the capital will be spread thinner through the many funds, and thus the funds will have less resources to achieve their goals. Simply put, why create a fund for remedying the effects of climate change when funds already exist for this exact purpose? Under the 2009 Copenhagen Accord, developed countries committed to a collective climate finance goal of jointly mobilizing 100 billion USD a year by 2025. A progress report on climate finance delivery examining the progress towards this goal was released before the UN Climate Change Conference this past November. It showed that developed countries were short of their $100 billion goal this year. However, they were confident that developed countries would meet this goal by 2023, 2 years early. Therefore, the funds that already exist are sufficient for remedying the effects of climate change, and states are on track to meet their climate finance goals. Creating a fund will just add more complexity, bureaucracy, and issues in private international law, limiting our ability to actually address the climate emergency. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are now proceeding to the final stage of the debate. Debate team from Sofia University, you have 2 minutes for the conclusion.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. I would firstly like to thank the opposing side for their efforts in presenting their statements. Our team would like to address the following arguments. We would like to argue that contributing to a national fund under the rule of every state would be more effective. The main idea for this global fund is to create a world movement concerning climate change. By creating this global fund, the speed of the green transition of every state will be synchronized, which will
Due to technical difficulty, the timer has been paused and will be reset. Sofia University, whenever you're ready, you can please restate your conclusion.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have some problem with my internet connection. Okay, is it okay now?
Please restart when you are ready.
Okay. So I would firstly like to thank the opposing side for their effort in presenting their arguments. Our team would like to address the following statements. We would like to argue that contributing to a national fund under the rule of every state would be more effective. The main idea of this global fund is to create a world movement concerning climate change. By creating this global fund, the speed of the green transition of every state will be synchronized, which will remove the negative effect of the so-called transboundary pollution. We would also like to argue that additional taxes will increase the cost of products. The largest polluters essentially need to follow the polluter pay principle, which is fundamental for the environmental and international law. That means that if the largest polluters have to cut their costs, that doesn't necessarily mean that they need to increase the value of their products. The main objective of these taxes is making the largest polluters find pollution-free alternatives, which will reduce the negative impact on climate. Despite mentioning that a global fund would not be effective, our team would like to defend the statement that by creating such a fund, there would be an international body which will be independent and will distribute accordingly all the acquired resources. Climate change is a phenomenon which includes the whole world and not only individual states. Throughout the course of this debate, we have demonstrated that states should enact such legislation through the argument that human rights and their protection is a central part of the society. Secondly, holding accountable the largest polluters is necessary in order to decrease the overall adverse effect on climate change. Finally, by contributing to a global fund, there will be an acceleration in the green transition because funds will be correctly distributed to the states that are affected the most, and transboundary pollution won't have the same effect on the world. Thank you.
Thank you for your submission. University of Western Ontario, you have 2 minutes for your conclusion.
Before I begin, can I confirm that I'm audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. I want to thank my friends for their argument. However, I respectfully disagree. My friend has argued that this global fund will unify the climate finance landscape. However, this is not the case. Currently, there is neither a private international law nor a public international law scheme capable of adjudicating the issues that will arise out of a global fund. Our first speaker today, Jack, has argued that we do not need the answer to the normative question of this debate, as Article 9 of the Paris Agreement already provides the answer, and we should focus on strengthening this approach. In addition, he argued that states must be a part of the solution and not push the responsibility solely onto corporations. Rebecca, as our second speaker, argued that states should not enact legislation for a global fund contributed to by the largest private polluters, as this would take away states' flexibility in addressing climate change through their own methods. If this legislation was enacted, it would impose a regime that is far too strict on corporations that already participate in cap-and-trade systems and contribute to carbon taxes. And I, as our third speaker, argued that a global fund is not needed and could impede progress that has been made in climate finance. With so many funds already in existence, a new fund is unlikely to make a difference. And we face the potential of spreading the same amount of monetary resources across more funds, leading to less efficiency and more bureaucracy and more complexity. On behalf of Western University, Jack, Rebecca, and myself, we wish to thank our opponents from Sofia University for their submissions. We humbly ask the judges to agree that states should not enact legislation that would require companies that are their largest polluters to contribute to a global fund for remedying the effects of climate change. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you are mute, no?
Yes, apologies. I was just saying that I'll be passing the floor to my colleague for the feedback session, but well done to the both participating teams.
Yes, many thanks for this debate. We can see that there is experience as well, a transfer from your coach, that is obvious. So we would like to hear from your impression after this match. You are not anymore under evaluation from that moment. I would like to hear Mr. Walsh, what was your impression for this first match, first experience in the competition?
I thought it was a great chance to deal with an issue that I had not previously explored, and it was great to learn more about and to really think about the different sides to it and how there's some really good arguments both for and against this particular proposal.
Thank you very much. As well, we have on the side of Sofia University, Martin Kushukov.
So I think that as somebody who hasn't participated in debating competitions before, I think that it was a great chance to learn about a topic which is actually very, very recent and popularized. And I think that overall we can gain a lot of knowledge just from researching, for this particular topic. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Miss Rebecca Rodriguez in Western University.
Yeah, as someone who does have previous debating experience, I quite like this debate structure. The back and forth is preferable to providing arguments all at once, and it was nice to hear a variety of arguments from our opponents as well as from our team.
Thank you very much. And on the side of Sofia University, Victoria Malinova.
Well, it was my first debate competition in a language different than Bulgarian. So I am glad that first I had a chance to exercise my English language, and also to learn a lot of new things about the environment and global environment security.
Thank you very much. We have as well on the side of Western University, Western Ontario University, Mr. Spencer Reiser.
Yeah, I thought this was a wonderful experience, getting together with intelligent, like-minded individuals to discuss and debate an issue that is so current to our time. It was great.
Many thanks. That's indeed a good output. And finally, Mr. Ivanchenko, Svetlin Ivanchenko.
Hello again. Well, it was my first time participating in such a debate tournament, so yeah, it was really a wonderful and lovely experience being a part of this great debate. And many thanks to our opponents and of course to my teammates. So it was really lovely. Thank you.
Many thanks. Thank you. I don't know if Miss Donskaya is still online.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes. So tell us your impression.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed the match. I really liked the all arguments, both from our sides and obviously from the opposing side as well. And see you next time.
Yes, of course, next match for in the group, and I think yes. So Professor Dr. Ustevel is not here, but of course, greetings to her. So many thanks, and now last word from the judge. I think Professor Munoz, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you so much for such a good debate. I'm really impressed by the structure of the argument, by the way you were like just developing the whole conversation around this topic. And it was really enjoyable as well. And I really want to congratulate you guys because it looks like you've been working really hard for this. And in general, I think overall it was a really good experience. And I was taking those notes about every point we have to grade about this debate. So I think it's going to be good for you guys. It was a good experience, and I hope you have enjoyed us. I just enjoyed just listening to you.
Thank you. Many thanks, Professor. So what will happen, obviously, is that in 2-3 days from now, you will receive all the feedback inside those forms from each of the judge for your team. And after those days, you will receive next week the topic for your following match, which will happen in 2 weeks from now, less than 2 weeks now, from now. And so it means 7 days before you receive the topic. And that topic will be against another team, debated against another team from your group. So again, you are in the group A. So it means it will be the other teams, the University of South Pacific and the University of Lagos. So many thanks again for this match, for your performance, for this great match, and of course we keep in touch, and we'll see each other in 2 weeks from now. Many thanks as well to my colleague, as well.
Well done to both teams, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.